George Floyd's death has been a driving force for racial injustice protests across the U.S. His murder also sparked a movement in the art world. Street art showcasing the rage and pain felt from Floyd's death and from so many who died before him suddenly popped up everywhere. It soon became something that needed to be documented. That is where the Urban Art Mapping Research Project stepped in, and joining us now are the co-directors of Urban Art Mapping, Heather Shirey and Todd Lawrence. They are also both educators at the University of St. Thomas in Minnesota. Welcome, Heather and Todd. Great to have you both with us. Todd, let me start with you. How did the Urban Art Mapping Research Project get started, and what inspired you to start collecting these images?
Well, we started the project actually about 2.5 years ago. We were mapping and documenting art in a neighborhood of St. Paul, Minnesota, which is adjacent to Minneapolis. And we were trying to understand how, where art is in the city impacts how people experience it. We were trying to think about and understand how people experience art in their daily lives. And so we were working on that for a while. Then COVID hit and we could no longer sort of do our work in the street. We couldn't interview people in person. So we had to sort of figure out another way to sort of engage these ideas. And we started a database on COVID-19 street art actually first. And then a couple of months after that, George Floyd was murdered here in the Twin Cities, right where we were, working, doing our work. And so we were just responding to, this really an explosion of art all through our city. In particular, in the neighborhood that we've been working in, which is called Midway in St. Paul. And pretty immediately after the murder of George Floyd, the streets were filled with art on all the plywood boards that went up on the buildings to protect the windows. And we, were really moved by that art. In particular, like a piece like this tag "Mama" that you see here was on the side of a building, a commercial building in Midway. And we knew when we saw it that would be gone. It would be cleaned up. It would be buffed, very quickly. And so we thought we need to preserve this art because it represents the feelings, the emotion, the expression, the pain, all the things that people were feeling in this moment as they went into the streets, even in this really dangerous moment of COVID-19.
And Heather, of all the street art you've been collecting on George Floyd, tell us about some of the images you think are the most powerful and why they touch you and others so deeply.
Sure. Like Todd said, when we first started the database, we saw this tag on the side of a building that said "Mama." And that really struck us as being so powerful. Just thinking about the word that someone would use crying out in desperation and in pain and how that would resonate. And we did know that would be erased really quickly. But then we started to see that words like "Mama" and "I can't breathe" really resonated with artists as well and started to appear all over the world in different forms. So we saw that "Mama" then became a stencil. A stencil takes a little bit more time to plan. And then when it's painted on plywood like this, it's going to probably last a little bit longer too. And then we saw an artist in Portland who then amplified that and really painted this beautiful work that says all mothers were summoned when he called out to his. And so we see a piece that then becomes preserved over the course of time that amplifies that message and spreads it really globally. So there are lots of pieces like this that I think are really powerful that get at the universality of this act of violence and its impact. And then there are, of course, lots of images of George Floyd all over the world. His face is really powerful, I think, really in terms of how it speaks to people. So we can think about this image that's from George Floyd Square that was painted by a local artist, Peyton Scott Russell, that appeared really within about a week after George Floyd's murder. This is a photograph from early July, and this piece is still there. People interact with this piece. I think it's still really moving to people at every moment now in George Floyd Square. And then we can see from other parts in the Twin Cities, like on St. Paul Avenue, there's a piece by Face Me Por Favor that's probably cycling through here too that's really beautiful that appeared around the time that there was conflict in that area. But all over the world, we can see George Floyd's face. We've got a piece that was documented from Syria. And I think we can see just how powerful that kind of image is in places all over the world.
And so, Todd, Heather just described all of these, public artworks that have popped up all around the world. How do you locate all of this art to add to your collection? Because of course you can't be all places at all times. You can't have eyes everywhere. How do you go about finding these pieces? Do you have others helping you and notifying you?
Yeah. This project is a crowdsourced project. We rely on documenters in the street who are, taking pictures for us. You can actually, upload individual images. Anyone can upload an individual image to the database online. And if you have, if people have more than one image, they often, just send files to us. So I would say, of the pieces that are documented in the database, of which there are over 2,000 now, just a fraction of us were actually documented. A fraction of them were documented by us. Most all of them were documented by just regular people in the streets taking images and sending them to us.
It always really occurs to us how documenting is a kind of activism. It's a way of seeing these messages, seeing the pain, the anger, the hope that people feel, and really helping to preserve that. So I think it's really a very active stance to take in relationship to the art and in relationship to the movement.
And I think we would also say, that we really encourage people to still submit. It's not something that's slowing down. We're seeing more art in the streets, and more people are submitting all the time. So if people think, that you see something on the street, just the smallest tag or a really beautiful mural, we care about those the same, and we want to document them. And so if you think, oh, they probably already have a picture of this, we don't. And we don't care about duplicates. We want every picture that everybody takes of every piece of art that they see.
So specifically remind us how people can do it. Where do they go to upload images to Urban Art Mapping, or to let you know what they've seen? Well,
they can go to urbanartmapping.org, and that will take you to the database site. The database site also has its own URL, which is georgefloydstreetart.omeka.net. So either of those two places, people can go and upload files directly to the database.
Great. Thank you so much. Heather Shirey and Todd Lawrence, we appreciate you joining us and telling us about this really interesting project. Thank you.
Thank you for having us,
Thank you
Tanya.
so much.